My name is Nyquis, and this is featuring Webcomics. Welcome to my channel. It's nice to meet you. Last week, I shared a character design of my OC Harmony, who will be featured in a story I'm working on called Beamer and the Brazen, alongside my other OC Symphony, whom I also shared on this channel. In this week's video, I'll be sharing the third character from this story, so here he is. Meet my OC, Dais. As you can see, I am currently sketching Dais' face. I had a lot of fun working on Dais' character sheet this week, since it's another one that I had already drawn before, but I needed to redraw for the comic. I'll just say this now, I had already drawn all of the upcoming characters that I'll be sharing on this channel soon, before reworking on them for the comic, so I won't repeat that in the next videos that I'll show them in. Anyways, I've got 6 outfits that I've drawn for Dais as well, just like I did for Harmony and Symphony in my previous 2 videos. If you haven't seen those yet and you're interested in seeing the outfits I drew for them, I suggest you go take a look at them when you have the time. For now, I'll continue telling you about this character I'm drawing currently. Like I stated earlier, this character is another one that will be featured alongside my characters Harmony and Symphony in my story Beamer and the Brazen. His name is Dais Romero. Like Harmony, Dais is a 17-year-old, second-year student at Isle Aegis, a high school in Fura on the planet Brace, which also sits within Cyrili, a star system of the Guild. He's also Harmony's classmate. I chose to share a video of Dais following the video of Harmony because he is also one of the members of the Brazen, a band from Fura, which is the group referred to in the title of the story. Among the 5 total members in the Brazen, he's one that I was most excited to draw and write about. I'll introduce the remaining 3 bandmates in later videos. To keep with the custom, I've decided to commence with Symphony in my first character design video for Beamer and the Brazen. I will now be sharing a quote for Dais that explains this story a bit. If I had to choose to adopt a little brother, he'd be last on my list. In fact, he wouldn't even be an afterthought. In this story, Dais goes through a lot of tough situations, living as a teen from Fura while attending school and working with the Brazen to become a famous band in their world. Dais in particular has some special issues that I'll be depicting him going through in the comics that I'm really looking forward to showing. They aren't worse than those of any other characters in the story. I feel they're just more subtle internal problems that are, of course, still heavily influenced by his external environment, the world around him. That's all I will share about his background in this video for now. I'll go on to tell you guys about his outfit soon. But before moving on to the clothing designs I did for Dais, I've decided to let you know that I am going to be doing something a little different today. I've decided I'll share with you all my process for drawing the poses for Dais' character sheet first, so we can just get that out of the way before we get to the most important part of the drawing process I want to share with you, the fit designs. I've got this one sped up quite a bit, just so it won't take long for us to get to them, but I'll be sure to go into depth about each pose enough for you guys to get a good scope of my thinking process for my design choices with the fits I'll tell you about later on. So here's the initial lineup, which you'll see following the end of the time lapse. When it comes to the poses, I wanted to make sure to make them as different as possible, while still showing Dais' personality in a way that's consistent enough despite the variances. I made sure to do different angles, especially for his face, so that I can have references of his head in different directions. It helped to draw all of the silhouettes for the poses first in order to do this. I also tried to vary his expressions a little, but not too much. I had a lot of fun working on his face for the second pose in particular. I really like the way he looks as though he's talking to someone, and think this will be a great look to use as reference for an actual scene of him in the comics. I changed the direction that Dais is standing and looking in for the last pose because I wanted to show his face in the opposite direction, and I felt like having his raised elbow on the outer edges of the sheet would be good for closure for graphic design aesthetic purposes. I've been practicing quite a bit with getting down the basic shape and silhouettes of poses to help make my drawing process easier. I hope to improve on this a lot more in the future. I want to say before I bring this part of the process to its end that although I've shown the poses together, I'll go ahead and show the outfits I drew individually since I want to talk about them in a way that's not in order of how I lined up the poses. Anyway, I decided to work on the pose you see me drawing now first because I was already looking at the reference photo for it, I think. I figured it'd be best to just get it down fully while I had it in front of me. For this photo in particular, the model was only visible from her head down to her hand at the bottom, so I had to imagine what the legs would look like down below. I ended up being able to draw them well enough for myself, so I'm really appreciative of that. I did the pose beside it next because I really wanted to make sure that I drew Dais' face in a profile view, so I made sure to draw his head first. I actually chose the reference I did for this one specifically because the model's face was looking in this direction. I also like the way it looks as though he's taking a step. I ended up going back and forth between this one and the one to its right, since I needed to make sure his facial features were properly aligned. As you can see now, I jumped over to the first pose on the left next. I decided to start drawing this one because I looked at the reference photo I picked for it and was really inspired when it came to the kind of design I wanted to do for Dais' clothes on top of it. I also really liked the expression on the model's face, so I used that part as reference for Dais' face too. The next pose I'm drawing is something I had a lot of fun with, as I mentioned before. I saw a reference of a guy with his hands spread out in this way, and I thought it'd be fun to have Dais in this pose with a confused expression on his face. This is what I was mentioning earlier about how much I enjoyed working on it and thinking that it could be part of a scene in the comics. I ended up not drawing the rest of this pose and Dais' feet in it at first, and instead ended up working on the middle pose again. After drawing Dais' right arm and hand for this middle pose, I started drawing the face and hair for it, since it's in front view, which was fairly simple for me to do since I was able to use the reference drawing for Dais' face that I had done at the beginning for it. As you can see, I kept readjusting his left arm and hand because I was trying to make it as realistically accurate as possible as well. I decided to forego sketching the rest of his left hand since I'd end up drawing over it when I started sketching his outfit for this pose on top. Once I finished what I did for the middle pose, I ended up doing the pose next to it so I could get Dais' face down correctly, since the angle for his head was something I was really nervous about drawing from the reference I chose. I managed to get it done well enough, so I'm really glad for that. I then jumped back over to a couple of the other poses while in the middle of drawing this one to finish drawing Dais' feet and adjust the height of his pelvis. Then I went back to work on this pose some more. After drawing both arms, I drew Dais' right arm again on a separate layer individually from the rest of the pose because I really wanted to make sure I had it drawn correctly early on before continuing to draw the pose with his clothes over it. Lastly, I finished working on the last pose for the character sheet. I struggled a bit with drawing his arms and hands on top of his head. It's a fairly complicated way of showing his fingers, but I really liked the way the model had his arms raised over his head in the reference, so I pushed through to have it drawn for Dais. I just really felt like this pose would capture Dais' personality really well, and I feel like it shows even more with the outfit I drew for him over it. Alright now, that's my final save for the poses at this point. I'll let the rest of this play out real quick and show you the first outfit that I'll be discussing afterward. I call this first outfit that I'm showing right now Dais' D6 fit. The reason why is because he wears a t-shirt with a graphic on it that's a die with 4 dots. It's pretty simple. Something I didn't mention before regarding this pose is that I decided to go with it for this character sheet because I noticed the model in the reference had his arms behind his back, so for this one at least I didn't have to draw Dais' hands, which was helpful. I gave Dais a pair of shorts to go with his t-shirt and another t-shirt underneath the D6T for layering. I added thigh belts to his shorts for his outfit as well, because I thought it looked cool to have a belt wrapped around them and wanted a belt that was different from the usual. It's kind of like a holster if I really think about it. These belts are honestly just for aesthetic purposes and have no real practical use outside of this. I changed the original design that I had done for his shoes for this outfit as well. They were originally a lot simpler, but I chose to add a couple lines to the tongue of his shoes and some lines on the straps around his ankles, as well as a zipper on his heel. I wanted to try making the shoes a bit more unique, since the character's clothing in this story is supposed to match the cyberpunk sci-fi aesthetic feel of the story. Anyways, that's all that I have to say for this outfit. Moving on to the next. This next outfit is called Dais' button fit for 2 reasons. First, it's because he wears a relaxed button-up shirt, and second, it's because he wears 2 button pins on his belt. I really wanted to show what Dais looks like wearing a button-up shirt, since I felt like it was something he'd wear regularly and could style in different ways for varying outfits. This shirt is not the one he wears for school though. I wanted to make sure he would have a different one for his uniform than what he'd wear every day, since I feel like he'd want to make sure his uniform is well taken care of for the most part. I didn't draw his uniform for this video though, but that's basically the gist of it. As I've said before, I decided to draw Dais a belt and put a couple of buttons on it. I felt like he might not want to wear them on his shirt, and therefore decided that it would look cool to have them on his belt instead. I also decided to go with a different hairstyle for this outfit. I wanted to see what it would look like for Dais to have his hair tied up and how he might style it as an updo, so I just went with a small ponytail with some of his locks of hair that regularly frame his face around his neck. I gave Dais a pair of boots too, with a simple design. I decided to do this since he would end up wearing these with different outfits as well. Dais only has 3 pairs of shoes in total in this story, so he will definitely be wearing them quite often, like the other shoes that he has. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this outfit right now. I may explain a bit more about it in the final look of the character sheet later in the video. On to the next outfit. This third outfit that I'm sharing with you guys is Dais' party fit, which I like to call his cheeky punk fit. I really enjoyed drawing this outfit because I wanted to show what Dais' appearance would be like when styling himself in the band The Brazen. Something significant to Dais' clothing aesthetic preferences that I have been developing for a while is his preference for vests. I've seen a lot of photos on Pinterest of people who don the punk and rock aesthetics wearing vests, so I wanted to use that for Dais too. I decided to use one for him in this outfit in particular because I felt like he would want to wear something with a bit more flair for a party event. I also gave him a bunch of different accessories for layering. I was going to make his abs visible for this outfit at first, seen through a mesh top, but decided against it. I still drew him with the mesh top, but I decided to put a t-shirt over it as well, so his outfit isn't too revealing. He is a guy, but I felt that he needs to be fairly modest too, since he's still a kid. I gave Dais a pair of baggy denim pants with this outfit too. I wanted to try giving him a nice asymmetrical silhouette with it for the upper and lower halves of his body for a more visually interesting look. I think it looks that way personally. I think my favorite part about this outfit as a whole, though, is his sunglasses on top of his head. I really wanted to put his sunglasses on top of his head to show his hair in a different style. I really like how it looks with his bangs pulled back. I didn't draw him with the headband for any of these outfits, but I feel like he would wear one, so it helps to have the sunglasses on top of his head like this to use as a reference for a headband as well. I drew pajamas for Dais that are quite simple. I drew his hair for this pose first, since his face is in front view position, and I just needed to copy it from the reference I drew in his headshots. I also ended up drawing his feet for this outfit, the same way I had done so for Harmony with her pajamas. I gave Dais a t-shirt made from pretty thin material and a pair of oversized shorts. One of the reasons I made sure to draw his pajamas is because I plan on drawing him in his PJs in the comics too. This story is also a slice of life, coming of age story, so we'll be seeing some of all the characters' home life. The setup for Dais' sleeping situation is pretty unique and interesting to me, so I wanted to show how he would look while being in that space. I gave Dais a hair tie on his wrist as well that he might wear whenever I feel like drawing him with his hair up again. This is the point in the video in which I'll recommend to you guys that you comment down below what your thoughts are on Dais and what you think he might be like in the comics based on what you've seen of him in this video. Like always, I appreciate your comments if you choose to do so, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say about him. Now that we've gotten that taken care of, I've said all that I have to say for this outfit now. It's pretty simple like I said before, so I'll just let the remainder of the time-lapse play out for it. The second to last outfit I'm showing now is what I call Dais' stud step outfit. I called it that since I gave him a jacket and drew some studs on it for detail, and because the pose he's drawn in looks as though he's taking the step. I really quite like that for this pose. I also chose it because the model's face was in profile view. I kinda struggled a bit with drawing his hair on his head with it being in this angle, since I didn't look at any references for his hair while doing it, despite having used the same reference for every other aspect of this pose. However, I feel it looks pretty fine. I decided to go with some slim, relaxed fit jeans for this outfit because I wanted Dais to have at least one pair of basic jeans to wear. He's wearing the same shoes in this outfit that he wears in his button outfit. I felt these ones looked the best with the pants that I drew. I also drew him wearing the same button-up shirt from the button outfit. Just a bit more info on this jacket real quick. I decided to add a few more touches to it for added detail. I made it so he's able to zip and button up his jacket, because I had watched a movie recently and I liked the jacket that one of the characters was wearing in it, so I decided to use that as reference. I also gave him big pockets that I thought would be practical and allow him to hold lots of stuff within them. Well, that's all for this outfit's description. Let's move on to the time-lapse. This last outfit for Dais is called his netted up outfit. You'll see why I called it that near the end of this time lapse. I gave Dais a pair of jogger type pants for this outfit since I already gave him a pair of regular sweats in his button outfit. I also ended up drawing another crop top for Dais. Honestly, I just think dudes look good in crop tops. There are other male characters I have for this story, but I decided that Dais would be the one who's most inclined to wear crop tops in comparison to the rest of them. The line showing underneath his shirt is for another garment that he's wearing. It's the vest that you saw me drawing at the beginning. I decided to put it underneath his t-shirt instead of over it because I wanted the t-shirt to take center stage, but he'd still be able to wear the vest underneath for different outfits. I drew his third pair of shoes to wear with this outfit as well. I made them very simple and only added a wide tongue to it that goes down his foot just before the toe. I kinda struggled a bit with drawing Dais' hair for this outfit as well, since it's medium length and it's supposed to sit just on top of his trapezius, but his arms are raised up, so placement of the length of the ends of his hair was a bit difficult. I managed to draw it in the end, but yeah, it was tough. The final parts of this outfit I want to discuss are his bracelets. I decided to give him a beaded bracelet on his left wrist that was a gift someone in the story made for him. I thought this would be a fun touch to include in the story when I was thinking of what accessories to draw for him with this outfit. The other band on this wrist is a hair tie, and the bracelet on his other wrist is just a random one I decided to put for aesthetic purposes. Anyway, that's all the info for this outfit's description. Now we can move on to the final reveal of the finished character sheet for Dais. Alrighty then, the character sheet. I made quite a few last minute changes to most of Dais' outfits that I missed in the original sketching process. The first big change I want to point out is that I replaced the button-up shirt I had drawn for his stud step outfit with the red hoodie because I wanted to differentiate it even more from his button outfit. I also fixed his hand on his thigh for this outfit because it was too big, and I also forgot to add the studs on the right pocket of his jacket in the sketch, so I made sure to do it for the final look. The next big change that I made is that I added some rips and tears for added texture to his vest for his cheeky punk outfit. I also added some patches to his pants to incorporate the X shape into it, and I changed the shape of his earring to be like a star. I even added star studding to one of his belts for some continuity of the star theme throughout his outfit. I mentioned before that Dais is wearing a beaded bracelet that a character in the story made for him as a gift in his netted up outfit. The vest and pants he wears in this cheeky punk fit are also gifts made for him by the same characters who made the corset skirt set for Harmony that I showed in the last video. The last thing I want to point out before ending this video is the color scheme for Dais' overall character design. He is a natural redhead and also wears a lot of red clothing, but he also wears quite a bit of purple. I chose to add some browns to his outfits when it comes to his belts, just to break up the whole black and white color scheme that I'm always tempted to do when drawing accessories for my characters. I felt like the brown was a nice touch, especially when it comes to his star belt. I also decided to add some yellow and blue to his accessories, particularly for his beaded bracelet in his netted up outfit, and for the coloring of the buttons on his belt and his button fit. Anyway, that's about everything I wanted to share in this upload for Dais in this week's video. I will be sharing another character from Beamer and the Brazen here on the channel sometime next week as well, so be sure to check in next week to see who I will share next. Well, that's all for today. This was featuring webcomics with me, your host, Nyquis. If you've stayed to this point, thanks for watching. It was great to have you here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week, hopefully.